Welcome to another episode of TFL Talk. As always, I have my partner in crime, Nathan.
Nathan, right here. Yeah.
And today, since it's chilly outside, we're talking top 10 winter cars. In other words, top 10 all-wheel drive cars.
That's right. We wanted to discuss just a little bit about the all-wheel drive systems and four-wheel drive systems and some of the vehicles we've recently driven, at least for the 2014 model year. And we have quite a few vehicles here that are unique, and actually not all all-wheel drive systems are alike.
No, they're very technical and very different. And the reason that we're only doing cars that we've driven, obviously, Nathan, is because we want to have cars that we've had a direct experience with.
That's right.
And we want to give the manufacturer an incentive to give us cars that we can't get our hands on.
If we don't drive it, we can't review it.
Right. So let's just get right into it. Why don't you start with number 10?
Number 10, we put down the new Nissan Rogue, and this comes directly out of Nissan. They call it intelligent. Yeah, intelligent all-wheel drive. I wouldn't call it intelligent. I'd say it's thoughtful.
All right, guys. As you can tell, I'm on sheer ice on an incline, and I don't want to fall. But Nathan's behind the wheel of the brand new 2014 Nissan Rogue. Say hi, Nathan.
Hi, Nathan.
Now, the cool part about the Rogue is that it's got this feature where if the front wheels slip, it allocates power to the rear wheels. And we're going to show that on this incline on pure ice. So Nathan, go on up. Take it out, no problem. This is sheer ice. I can't even get up this hill. I can't get up this hill, whereas the Nissan Rogue and Nathan had no trouble.
It's an advanced system that will tell you whether you're cruising or cornering, and it can sense loss of traction at a specific wheel, and it's able to direct power to where it needs to go. It is an electronic and mechanical system, and it works with active ride control, which is kind of cool. It actually helps stabilize the vehicle when it's going through like bumps and whatnot. It does it by triggering various brakes as it's going through, and it has active trace control and active engine braking. All of those come together to make the vehicle that can actually stay in its lane and pull back into its lane if you lose control. It's not really an off-roader, but we've driven it in snow and off-road, and it did okay.
You know, that's a mouthful there, dude. That is really a mouthful, and that's why it's so complicated, because there's so many different ways to approach this. So let's start with the basics, the difference between four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. And we're going to be very general here, because there are systems that are both mechanical and electronic, but generally a four-wheel drive system is mechanical. So think of an old pickup truck, an old Jeep, and all-wheel drive system is electronic. So you want to talk about kind of how the mechanical system works, Nathan?
Well, absolutely. A mechanical system is something that we like to think of something that you can trigger. So in other words, you're pulling a lever, you're turning a switch, you're making it happen. And then inside the vehicle, gears are meshing together or pulling apart, and they're making different wheels move at different speeds. So in other words, you can have wheels moving exactly at the same speed, at the same amount of power, pulling you up a hill, or you can have something that opens up and actually allows the wheels to turn independently. And it also goes for the drive shaft running through the car.
Yeah, so here's really the whole trick to looking at a four-wheel drive system versus an all-wheel drive system. If I take this Mini, right, and I go around a corner like this outside wheel has to travel further than the inside wheel, which means that the differential in between these two wheels is open. In other words, it allows this wheel to move faster than the inside wheel because it has to travel farther. And in a traditional four-wheel drive system, what you could do is you could lock this front differential. So the car was driven by three wheels, you would throw a lever, and then in the old days, you actually have to go outside and you have to lock the hubs.
The hubs, yeah.
Yeah, manually, like Nathan was saying. And then these two wheels would travel at the same speed, which was great in low traction situations like rock crawling, but not so good if you do it and then you hit dry pavement, because all of a sudden the car's kind of stuttering around because the wheels are locked at the same speed going around corners.
That's right. Now we're going to jump to number 9, because this is a different type of all-wheel drive system, and it's something that's very popular, and it's called the Haldex all-wheel drive system.
What's the car?
This one is the Volvo XC60.
Now you drove that in Vegas.
Yes, I did. I drove the newest one in Vegas, but the one I drove was front-wheel drive. The older one that I drove and you drove was the all-wheel drive one with this system, and it's instant traction. And what it basically does is it works with engine torque. It can actually retard the engine, draw it back a little bit on top of traction control, braking, and everything else to have the all-wheel drive system work in the most efficient and most traction-worthy form. And in this case, it says when a tire loses traction, power is reduced to that wheel and instantly transferred to the more sure-footed wheels. Of course, if you have wheels that none are sure-footed, then it's in trouble, as we proved once when we took one off-road.
And you know, I just proved that in the Bentley because I had the traction control system on. And I floored it, 616 horsepower, and the car did not move because none of the wheels had traction. And I think this is a good time to talk about kind of the way that the system can operate in terms of all-wheel drive. We kind of discussed four-wheel drive, so let's talk about all-wheel drive. There are basically three different modes of operation. There's a car that has all-wheel drive, like this, actually X-Type, that had all-wheel drive. Yeah, you could, I know you hate it. You could have a rear-wheel drive bias, so the power automatically, and that's how Jaguar system works, by the way. It allocates most of the power to the rear wheels, and then when the system senses slip in the rear wheels, it sends power to the front wheels, up to 50%, so a 50-50 split.
Yeah, they can do that. And there are other systems that are similar to it. But once again, there are so many different variables that go for different systems. And even if they have the same name, like Haldex, which you'll hear again.
There's different generations.
There's different generations, and some vehicles have a little bit more bias towards traction control. Others have more bias towards performance. Now, number 8 on our list is the Ford Explorer Sport. And that's it's a really surprising vehicle because it's ridiculously fast and it's massive. It's a big, Explorer, but it does have an all-wheel drive system, and it's one that has what they call a terrain management system. So there's a little knob, and you can actually select between the different terrains. But what we've noticed is pretty much on auto, it's really good in rain, and it's okay in snow, but off-road, neither of us found any systems that worked particularly well, no matter where we shifted in the knob. And what was the reason for that?
Because I think, all right, you say.
Tires.
Tires. Well, tires, of course.
That was, oh my God, they put the wrong tires on that.
Yeah, that's got a sport set of tires, and the part that touches the pavement or the dirt is the most important part. No matter what all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive system you have, the part that actually touches the road is the part that's going to be your limiter, right?
Yeah.
As much traction as you can have.
Yeah, if you have crap rubber, you're not going to get good traction, bottom line. And this particular thing has something very special. Not all vehicles have its hill descent control, which is part of the all-wheel drive system and part of four-wheel drive systems, but not all of them.
Yeah.
And it's not standard on all vehicles that have all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. And basically what it does is it's limiting the speed that you're going downhill at. And there's some that you can actually select the speeds, and there's others that just you push the button and go. And what you do is you take your foot off the brake as you're going downhill, and for the most part it's controlling the brakes as you're going downhill. And there are some systems that will actually slow the engine RPM down if necessary and try to bring you down at a controlled rate.
Right. Number 7, sir.
This is something we recently had a lot of fun with, and that's the Buick Regal GS all-wheel drive. It has also intelligent all-wheel drive.
It's also a Haldex system.
It's
a Gen 4.
It is, and on top of that, the way it was described to us is that it's both mechanical and electric. So it's trying to figure out the best usage of the all-wheel drive system to get you from point A to point B. But what's real cool about it is you can defeat almost all of the traction control and drive like an absolute maniac on the ice, which is really cool.
Which is what you did.
Yeah, it was so much fun. It was great.
And that's a great example of a system that's the exact opposite of the Jaguar. It's front-wheel drive biased, right? So the front wheels are driving the car, and then when the system detects slippage in the front wheels, it sends up to 50% of the power to the rear wheels. So instead of going rear to front bias, you're going front to rear bias.
I think it's actually more than 50% up to
Yeah, I think you're right. I think
yeah.
it can. And that's, each system is a little bit different, and it can be tuned differently. So this is a very technical and complicated area.
Now, if you take it from the Buick, which is really built for roads, okay, then you can go up to the next level, which is number 6, and that's the Range Rover Evoque. And that has, it's a Haldex system, but it's built for real off-roading, for a crossover. There are 4 modes. There's dry, snow, ice, mud and ruts, and sand. And each mode sets, this is according to Rover, each mode sets the base torque split of the Haldix, tweaks the sensitivity of the throttle pedal, optimizes the transmission shift points, and alters the aggressiveness of the brake by a limited slip function that operates through the open front and rear differentials.
That's a mouthful.
That was one sentence, man, and they wrote it, I didn't. So the point is that what it's doing is it's using mostly its intelligent system to judge how much slip is on one tire and how much grip is on another, and move it around so you can get over obstacles easier.
Yeah, and that's also another thing that we should talk about. There are potentially 3 differentials you can have on a vehicle, and this obviously only has one because it's a Mini, but if, let's say this was just the bottom of a typical very hardcore all-wheel drive vehicle, you can have a differential in the front, you can have one in the middle, and you can have one in the rear. So when you lock the middle one, what you're doing is you're allocating the same amount of power to the front and to the back. But these are still open, which means that really you're only getting 2-wheel drive. One wheel's driving the front, one wheel's driving the back. Then you can also lock the differential in the front and in the back on, like some of the Land Cruiser, some of the Lexus does that. Jeep. And you can, in essence, send the same amount of power if you lock it all down to 4 wheels, which is exactly what you want in kind of a rock-crawling, hardcore off-road situation. It's not what you want in a situation when you're driving around and it changes from snow to dirt to pavement to back to snow, because you will, once you can get that shutter going across.
That's what happens up here a lot in the Colorado area, is that we have a variety of different weather patterns that go through one day. And so you need like different things to select from, or you need a really good intelligent all-wheel drive system. And we're going to hit a few of those, including this one, which you and I disagree on.
Yeah, I don't like this one.
Yeah, the Mitsubishi Outlander Sport. Now, look, folks, I'm not in love with the vehicle, and it has a continuously variable transmission, which, well, frankly, takes all the fun away, but it has what's known as AWC, which is all-wheel control, and it's derived from the Mitsubishi Evo. So it actually has a really, really sensitive, excellent system to send power to the wheels that need it, and in case it just gets totally flummoxed, it'll send power to all wheels, and it did that in the snow when we were getting stuck because it had really crappy tires.
Yeah, and because it has really crappy ground clearance. So one of the things that you need, obviously, is good ground clearance, because if you get a lot of snow underneath the car, you can get it high-centered, and that car doesn't have it, and that's why I don't like it. People say I'm a Mitsubishi hater. No, I love Mitsubishis, but I just don't like the fact that the thing has no ground clearance, and you get a little bit of snow underneath it, and all 4 wheels are spinning because the thing is like a beach trail.
It was kind of up high on that, but the way they explain their all-wheel drive system is it works with the drivetrain, suspension. What? Oh, okay. So initially developed for high-performance Lancer Evolution full-time 4-wheel drive models, the system is now incorporated in Mitsubishi's other 4-wheel drive vehicles, each having their own disconnect function. Distinct, not disconnect. I meant that.
Just go to number 4. Enough about the Mitsubishi.
It's a good system, though, folks.
And this is where we kind of draw a line, because what we're doing is we're going from these intelligent systems, right, that are systems that basically you select the kind of terrain you're on, and then there's a little computer in the car that says, oh, okay, you're on snow.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do what's best for you on snow, and takes the autonomy away from you. It makes it kind of its own little thing.
Which is good for a lot of people who need it.
Which is good, but the best systems, in my opinion at least, Nathan, are the old-fashioned systems. There's nothing that beats good tires, good ground clearance, good approach angles, good departure angles, and lockable differentials, and this next vehicle has it.
Has it all.